You got a cat because you wanted a pet. Maybe you wanted some company. Maybe you saw a video online of a tiny furball doing something ridiculous and thought, yeah, I want that in my house. You did not sign up to be psychologically managed by a small, furry creature with no job and zero legal accountability. And yet here you are, rearranging your sleeping position at 2 a.m. so you don't disturb something that weighs 11 pounds and contributes nothing to the mortgage. This is not a video about whether cats are secretly evil. Spoiler, the answer is more interesting than evil. And this is definitely not about whether cats love you. That question is almost too simple. The real question is what your cat is actually doing to your brain on a neurological level without your consent, and whether anything in the history of animal domestication has ever looked quite like this. And what the evidence shows is genuinely strange. Let's start with the obvious assumption and knock it down. The conventional wisdom is that cats are just independent animals that tolerate humans in exchange for food. Cold. Transactional. The cat simply uses you as a vending machine and feels nothing. It's a satisfying story, very on brand for cats, except the neuroscience doesn't support it at all. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Your cat has almost certainly made a custom sound for you. Not for other cats. For you specifically. Domestic cats do not meow at each other as adults. They use meowing almost exclusively to communicate with humans. And over time, cats develop individualized vocalizations tuned to the responses of their particular owner. Yours has essentially A/B tested its own voice on you until it found the frequency that makes you move. Researchers at the University of Sussex, led by bioacoustics scientist Karen McComb in the 2000s, discovered what they called the solicitation purr. It's a purr with a hidden cry embedded inside it. The embedded frequency sits right in the range of a human infant's distress call, somewhere between 300 and 600 hertz. Your brain is hardwired to respond urgently to that sound. It evolved over millions of years to make sure you didn't ignore a baby. Your cat found that frequency. Accidentally, probably. But it kept using it because it worked. Every time you hauled yourself off the couch at midnight to refill a bowl that was only half empty, you were responding to a sound your nervous system could not ignore. That's not manipulation in a scheming conscious sense. But it is manipulation in the most literal technical sense. Your behavior is being shaped by a stimulus your cat has optimized through feedback. The fact that the cat isn't doing it on purpose makes it somehow weirder, not less impressive. Now here's the part most people skip past entirely. The purring itself, the baseline non-solicitation purr, does something to your body. Cats purr at frequencies between 25 and 50 hertz. That range has been studied in the context of bone density, tissue repair, and stress hormone reduction. When you sit with a purring cat on your lap, your cortisol levels drop. Your blood pressure measurably decreases. Your nervous system shifts toward a calmer state. You didn't decide to relax. Your body just responded to the vibration. This is not a wellness trend. This is physics acting on biology. And the cat, once again, did not plan this. It just found a creature that went calm and still when it purred, and it kept purring. Honestly, it's a little embarrassing how easy we were. The toxoplasmosis angle gets raised a lot here, and it's worth addressing because it sounds like a movie plot. Toxoplasma gondii is a parasite that lives in cats' digestive systems and is shed in cat feces. It can infect humans. In rodents, it causes a dramatic behavioral change. Mice and rats that are infected lose their fear response to cat urine. They actually become attracted to the smell. The parasite is essentially steering the rodent toward the predator to complete its life cycle. Neuroscientist Robert Sapolsky of Stanford University has spent decades studying this organism and describes it as one of the most elegant and disturbing examples of parasitic behavior manipulation in nature. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Your cat has almost certainly made a custom sound for you. Some studies suggest infected individuals show slightly increased risk tolerance and subtle personality shifts. Most researchers are careful not to overstate it. The majority of people infected with toxoplasma show no significant behavioral change. But the fact that this organism exists, that it evolved the ability to reach into a rodent brain and rewrite the fear response, is the kind of thing that makes you want to wash your hands a second time. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Your cat has almost certainly made a custom sound for you. Probably. But the existence of that parasite inside the broader cat ecosystem is not a comforting footnote. Let's talk about what you actually feel when you look at your cat. There is something called cute aggression, which is the urge you get to squeeze or squish something you find overwhelmingly adorable. Scientists at Yale University studied this in the mid-2010s and found it's a genuine neurological response, not a personality quirk. The brain responds to overwhelming cuteness by producing a simultaneous wave of positive and negative emotion. The aggression impulse is essentially a pressure valve. Your brain is trying to regulate an input it finds too intense to process cleanly. Your cat, with its large eyes and round face and small features, triggers the same neural circuits that fire when you see a human infant. You were built to respond to those features. Your cat just happens to have them. Cats were not bred for companionship the way dogs were. Dogs were shaped over tens of thousands of years through direct human selection for prosocial behavior, emotional attunement, and obedience. Cats domesticated on a much looser timeline, drifting into human settlements around grain stores, tolerated because they ate rodents, never selectively bred for emotional connection in the same systematic way. They arrived in your life through a completely different evolutionary door, and somehow they still ended up on your chest while you sleep. That matters, because the bond you feel with your cat was not engineered by humans. It emerged. It's the product of an animal that found what worked and kept doing it, and a human nervous system that turned out to be surprisingly easy to anchor. Here's the uncomfortable truth that sits underneath all of this. We like to believe we choose our emotional attachments deliberately. We like to think we assessed the cat, decided it was worth caring for, and built a relationship based on mutual connection. But a significant portion of what you feel when you look at your cat is your own ancient infant response circuitry misfiring, your stress hormones dropping in response to a vibration, your sleep disrupted because you learned young that you don't move when something small and warm is resting on you. The cat didn't earn your love the way we usually talk about earning love. It stepped into a series of neurological tripwires that were already there, and your brain did the rest. That should probably bother you more than it does. But it doesn't, does it? Because right now, somewhere in the back of your mind, you're thinking about your cat. You're thinking about the specific way it looks at you before it decides to sit down. You're thinking about the weight of it. And none of the neuroscience, none of the parasites, none of the evolutionary misdirection changes how that feels. That's the thing about your brain. It doesn't care about the mechanism. It assigns meaning anyway. Your ancestors did the same thing under different skies, pressing warmth against warmth in the dark and calling it safety. You're not being fooled. You're being human. You got a cat because you wanted some company. And somewhere in the 25 hertz vibration of a creature that evolved to find your frequency, you found it.